Give it time. I know that I'm not easy. This cold heart of mine, she really took a beating before you stuck through.
Hey folks, today I'm here to talk about the movies that I watched in the last quarter of 2023. But I'm actually going to take a little bit of a curveball and start with the one remaining TV show I finished up in December. I had already talked about my TV shows by the point that I had watched this, so I thought I'd just add it onto this, and that was Gen V, which I gave a 5 out of 5 stars. It is a spin-off of The Boys, and honestly it really just scratched that itch that I was so in need of. It was so good. I loved the characters, especially Emma. She was just so real. This was just such a fantastic series. I loved seeing the growth of Marie's bloodbending. I thought at first it was kind of like a limited naff power, but damn, the things she could do. Move aside, Katara. Marie is taking over. I loved it. I really want some more The Boys soon, because that show is just so... I do have a spoiler, so if you are interested in watching it and you haven't watched it yet and you don't want a spoiler, skip ahead for like a minute or so until I put my hand down. Let's do this side because I usually put the picture over here. So the spoiler is, I was so shocked at the portrayal of the blonde girl. I was just like, oh my god, it's just like a character in Babel, this book that I love. And then I realised this group of 4 was kind of like the Babel 4. And yeah, it's a little niche thing that you guys probably don't care about. But if you like books, because I talk about books a lot, even though you're here on a TV movie review, check out Babel by R.F. Kuang. It is amazing. Okay, spoiler over. Okay, on to the main feature of this video. We are talking about movies from October, November and December, kicking off with October. The first thing that I watched was Exits. I don't know why I can't say that. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It's a pretty good Bigfoot movie. Kind of thought it would be all super cringe and no substance, but the emotion was quite good throughout. I enjoyed it. 4 stars, as I say. Then I finally watched Pearl, which I ended up giving a 3.5 stars. It was less than I was expecting I was going to give it, right? So it was just a strange and uncomfortable movie. It was executed really well though, in the style of the era that it was supposed to be set in. I didn't quite get how it linked up to X, the movie X, which I'd watched I think maybe the year before or so, which I thought it was a prequel to, but it was. I was just so confused at first because the whole Chainsaw Massacre franchise I have never watched. The only sort of introduction I had was the movie X, right? So I didn't realise it was a prequel in the sense the character that Mia Goth is playing is someone else in X. So it was like she plays 2 different characters, right? So the character that is the massacre person in X, you guys already know this, right, is the character she's now portraying in Pearl. She's Pearl, right? So that's where it was confusing me. I was thinking it was the character that she was originally playing in X. It was her origin, so I was like, how is this connected? What? But once it clicked and I realised, I did a bit of critical thinking, I was like, oh my god, yeah, it makes sense. I'm having so much fun. I can see the connection now, right? So that was just my bad though, because I was like thinking it was an origin story of a different character. The fact that the same actress played 2 different characters is what probably threw me for a good portion of the film, I'm not gonna lie. But other than that, it was quite fun. Like, I just love all the iconic quotes like, I'm a star, I'm married, I didn't do anything wrong, why are you leaving me? She's such a toothy actress. Like, I love it. But yeah, I gave it 3.5 stars. Still a really good rating in my views, but I thought I was gonna like really love it even more. Finally, I watched Hellboy, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. Really enjoyed it. It's actually really nice to see this after watching other Del Toro movies, such as The Shape of Water, to just better appreciate some of the earlier stylistic choices for character designs. For example, Abe, very reminiscent of, you know, the character in The Shape of Water, even though it's explicitly told that they're 2 different beings, 2 different characters. They're not the same person. It's not an origin, nothing like that. But, you know, the fans like to speculate, and I do too. I'm a fan. I am fan. This is me. I enjoyed the studies of the occult in the Buru for the paranormal. This was super my kind of niche. Like, I loved it. I don't know why I'd never watched this before, but that was my sort of vibe. Like, if I could have any job that was mythical, I think it would be something like that. It's still kind of like bookish and like researchy based, but like magical, you know what I mean? That sort of vibe, just oh, that's something for me. That sort of topic just, it honestly, it just fascinates me, and I enjoyed the plot of it as well, of course. I do think Hellboy's adoration for Liz was a bit strong though, like when she really wasn't vibing the same way. It was giving Skywalker, Anakin, it was giving him. Yeah, that was just a bit extra, a bit deep, you know, for no reason. I've actually got a filmed video already, so feel free to check that out. That is the Boogeyman, and I don't know why I can't say that properly. It's the 2023 release, and I've got a dedicated review for that already. Okay, so in November I watched a film called 13, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. This is one that I have seen cropping up here and there. It's like one of those movies like you must watch, you must see in your life. It's just girlhood and growing up, and you know, kind of going through rebellious phases. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I didn't know Vanessa Hudgens and Nikki Reed was in this, and in fact it was based on times in Nikki Reed's life, like she produced it or directed it or whatever. And it's crazy because in the movie she's still so young, do you know what I mean? But she had a year or two where she was just going through shit, and this is inspired by that. To go through this extent of trauma and experience at such a young age is just so heartbreaking, because this film is explicit. Like, they're doing a lot of stuff like underage sex, underage drinking, you know, substance abuse. It's just intense to think that a young kid at potentially 13 is doing all that. It's just so sad. Felt kind of like a cautionary tale in ways, nostalgic in others for, you know, the experimental lighter side of experiences, you know, and just downright sad in others. I didn't really know what to expect going into this, but it was one I've been meaning to watch for a while, and although it made me uncomfortable and oddly nostalgic at times, I am glad that I watched it. I feel like a lot of the themes would be relatable to so many, especially when this came out during the dawning of technology and like online, like is it AOL, all that on like the internet, chat sites, all that sort of stuff, and phones, and reaching people a bit easier but also not always knowing who you're talking to, you know, just technology being pumped out to the masses. I thought it was such a good movie. I thought it was a really good movie, cautionary tale. Of course, in November, it made sense to watch a review for Vendetta. I gave it 5 stars. I have watched this a few times now, mainly during school years, I think. And it's only now that I've clocked how dystopian it is, and that's really like the whole reason why I wanted to talk a little bit about it in more depth, because I think this latest viewing has really unlocked my brain power. Like, it's unlocked another percentage of my brain, and I was just like, wow. So just let me like gush and nerd out for a little bit. So some major themes were very similar, of course, to like the totalitarian 1984, and in fact the dictator in the V for Vendetta movie is the main character in the 1984 movie. And again, this is all stuff that I'm just now like realizing upon this viewing. I'm like, how did I not notice this before? I mean, obviously it was probably intentional. It makes you wonder if he ever did find freedom, like if there is a crossover of the universes of both films, or like did he find freedom, or did he get sucked into the wickedness and he's now here? Do you know what I mean? Like, it just makes you spiral a little bit, which I love. A healthy amount of spiral is good for the brain, I think. This continues to be a, you know, a powerful and pivotal conversation, how much power government has over the majority of the population, and how much is censored and controlled for the benefit and destruction of, you know, hope and freedom of the populace. Upon each rewatch, I feel like I become more and more understanding and appreciative of the message that V for Vendetta has to share, and this is my little tidbit of this time's watching. The next movie I watched, again, I've got a full review for already separately. This is Children of Men, so if you do want to check out my thoughts and feelings, then definitely check out the cards where I will have that video linked for you. I have a couple of films actually that have been filmed already. So I did a book versus movie for my best friend's Exorcism. If I run out of cards, I'll put them in the description. And then I did a horror trio movie review of The Neon Demon, Vivarium, and The Books of Blood. So again, if you're interested in any of those films, then check out those videos if you haven't already. So in between Vivarium and Books of Blood, I watched Teeth, which I gave a 3 stars. It was just such a weird film. Like, this is the first time I've ever seen it. I remember being told about it before from a relative, and they were like, oh my god, it really disturbed me. That was years and years ago when we were all probably too young to be watching it, you know, so I just didn't watch it. And now I've watched it and I was like, yeah, damn, that was a strange film. It's so messed up, but not like not in a terrifying sense, like it's not horror in that way, it's just, I guess it's really just disturbing and odd. Do you know what I mean? Like, and obviously what the main character goes through, the whole psychological aspect of having teeth in her nether regions is a lot, right? And then relations that shouldn't be happening, like, it's a lot. It's just disturbing. 3 stars. It was a weird watch. I'm kind of glad I finally got that over with, but at the same time, I don't know if I gained anything from it, you know what I mean? And then I watched a horror short on YouTube, which I keep meaning to watch more of these because people be doing some great stuff on YouTube, you know, like with just their own little budget, just living their life. This short was called Don't Peek, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. The runtime for this one is 6 minutes and 47 seconds, so, you know, very short. So picture this, you're having a late night chilled gaming session of your favourite cozy game, Animal Crossing, when you notice that when your villager in the game opens a drawer, so does yours in real life. When she turns off a lamp, your bedroom light goes off. After an uncomfortable moment, you think this is great fun, until a dark entity of nightmare proportions is seen lurking in the background of the game. Look up in your real life bedroom and see something strange. This is the premise of this fantastic horror short. The atmosphere was in abundance, and despite being a silent movie, like in, for example, obviously no speaking, the breathing sounds and the rustling of clothes and bedding, typical house noises you would hope for, excels that fear factor and left me absolutely terrified. The tone of the lighting was fantastic, being dimly lit. You felt like you were seeing faces and shadows in places that they shouldn't be. It was scary and perfectly uncomfortable. Definitely give that a watch if you haven't already. After this, I watched 1 Hour Photo, which I gave a 3.5 stars. This was eerie, atmospheric and uncomfortable. The style reminded me of the movie Her, but the story wasn't similar really in any way. It just, the way it was filmed and the atmosphere that it held just was so reminiscent of Her. This was quite a sad movie at the heart of it. We're following a man who is so lonely and just isolated within his own little bubble of non-existence that he believes himself to be a part of this family's life as they come in to print photos. And, you know, over the years he sees the young kid age and grow and have his birthdays. He begins to think that he knows this family and that he's like an uncle to the young one and like a relation, you know, a close family friend or just family. And the obsession of course takes over and it gets to psychological horrific proportions. This was such a good thriller. It felt psychological and more of like a character study of our main character, Sai, more than anything. Like it did get to horror, like actual like slasher stabby horror, but the build up and the atmosphere is what really made it, I think. There was a great in-depth review you should definitely check out on a channel called Ryan Holliner. I watched it afterwards because both me and my partner was like, I need to know the meaning, I need to know like the ending explained, that sort of stuff. And then we came across his review and it was fantastic, so definitely check that out if you want more in-depth thoughts after viewing, I would say. In December I watched The Mortal Instruments City of Bones 2013 and I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. A couple of months ago I was making my way through the Mortal Instruments books, the original 5. I did like a poll on Instagram and someone commented and said definitely go for Infernal Devices afterwards, so I'm thinking that might be maybe a focus in 2024. But I really had this tickle that I needed to scratch of the movie. I wanted to find the movie and I found it on YouTube, which was great. So it just indulged me as I talk about all the people that I didn't expect to be in it. So I wasn't expecting Lena Headey, who is Cersei from Game of Thrones, as the mum, Adrian Turner, Poldark, Hobbit, etc. as Luke, Lily Collins from To the Bone, which I've started half of. She's in a load of stuff, but I started half of and then I stopped because it was kind of like, it's an intense film, I haven't continued it yet. As Clary, and oh my gosh, Robert Sheehan as Simon, who's in like Umbrella Academy Misfits. I adore him so much, honestly. I just, oh my gosh. Anyway, shit was violent from the get-go. They definitely cut out a lot of lore though, a lot of lore to get around to the point quicker, such as the forbidden romance between Clary and Jace. Hodge seemed like way more cruel than the book version. This was actually really fun though, like overall it was just a bit of action-packed fun. I definitely had some dreams feeling like I was in the Mortal Instruments after this, like thinking about it. I was like, damn, that was the scene in the film. Like, this was just it was great. It did take me a full week to watch, as I stuck it on every now and then. Like, I was just watching a little bit here, a little bit there. It wasn't anything like super serious, you know. But I can't deny that it was action packed and full of entertainment. It got the essence of the themes from the book, but it did bastardize it a lot, to be quite honest. Maybe I'm not too precious about it though, because I only read the books in 2023, so I didn't like grow with it and have such a major association with it and appreciation for the books. But I can understand why people would be like, no bro, this is not it, you know, because usually I'm quite precious about movies that are really shit in relation. I can tell that this is kind of a crappy film, but a lot of people, surprisingly, wanted more. They wanted more from it, you know, as in like they wanted more movie installments. Like, I'm one of those people. I want more movies, but the ship is well sailed. I think it was like 10 years ago now. I think I'll probably check out the TV show soon. In my head, I was sure that got more love, but looking at it now, it seems like people much preferred the movie from what I've just like looked on the surface, which is interesting. Then I got Jurassic. Then I finally, for the first time ever, watched the original Jurassic Park, which I gave a 4 out of 5 stars. And basically, the moral of the story is pay your employees their worth, or they will release the dinosaurs. And apparently you can quite literally fly away from your problem. I liked it. That I was checking out what Prime had to offer, and I was just looking at some random movies, and one of them was Magic, which I gave a 1 star. It was a strange and off-putting film. The setting of it basically is we're in a remote town in Chile, and we're following a girl who has tagged along with her cousin and the cousin's friends for just like a little getaway. But she begins to start mentally unraveling, and her friends just ignore her claims until it's too late. This felt eerie, but it lacked actual substance. Even with names like Juno Temple, Emily Browning and Michael Cera, the acting just felt wrong. I'm sure that added to the atmosphere it was building, but it just felt really weird and off, but not in a way that intentional. Like, you could feel like, okay, that's what they were going for, but it didn't quite work. The ending looked interesting, but there was, again, no real conclusion. It didn't really make much sense to me. I then watched 2009's A Christmas Carol to get in the Christmas spirit, and I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. It was a really good adaptation. The animation, though, was super uncanny valley, and some of the scenes were quite unsettling, but overall it was acted really well. Lastly, to wrap up, I was talking about recently in my December book wrap up that I had read Tempest. I thought I had it next to me still, but I don't, by William Shakespeare. So I decided to see if I can find the movie, and I think I found this on YouTube as well, actually. This is the 2010 one that I had been wanting to watch before I even knew what the Tempest was, and unfortunately I gave it a 1 star. I just felt very much the same as I did when I read the play. I had no connection to it and found it to be a bit trippy, but not in a good way. Like, I did feel like some of the themes and plot dynamics made more sense being able to see them take place as opposed to reading them and being unfamiliar with the type of old English language. And interestingly, they had made Prospero to be female as opposed to male, and I looked up why that choice was made and found this extract of text. Switching the gender in this movie adaptation gives the now female lead character a sense of sexual power or empowerment that the play did not have before, when the lead was male, because of the plausible and seemingly sexual actions or words said by Caliban and Ariel, I'm assuming to Prospero. So that was interesting, but I just didn't really vibe with it, to be quite frank. But yeah, that's me. That's all the movies that I finished up 2023 with from October, November and December, and of course that little TV show. Let me know what you guys have been watching. If you have any recommendations based on the stuff that I liked, that I talked about here today, then feel free to comment and let me know. If you've watched any of these and you have different opinions, thoughts and feelings, then I'd love to know too. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. I shall catch you in another video soon. Bye!
It's winter nights.